Right, an investigation has revealed that over 40 universities in the United Kingdom have risky ties to China. The Times uncovered that these universities collaborated with institutions that have been linked to malign activities of the Chinese state. These collaborated technologies are said to be linked with Uyghur genocide, nuclear weapons development, espionage, defence research or hacking from Xi's alma mater, Cambridge. Assisting in voice recognition services that are said to be helpfully assisting in human rights abuses, to the University of Surrey's facial recognition tech being used to identify Uyghur Muslims. It's been notified that these universities are not being accused of knowingly assisting China, but the links are worth speaking about. Here with me to talk about this is academic Andrew Tettenborn. Andrew, good evening. Have our universities been overtaken by the Chinese?
I think to a large extent they have, and probably without knowing it. I think you're quite right to say they're not deliberately helping the Chinese to do all sorts of unmentionable things. What's happened is that, well, to some extent, the government's own policy on universities has come back to bite it. Because if you insist on saying to universities, we're not going to fund serious research, and it's up to you to find somebody else to fund it, and the nice man from the Chinese Cultural Bureau comes along and says, well, here's a cool $250,000, you can hardly blame them for taking it. But I think the other point is quite simply, universities, and this goes both for academics and for university administrators, can sometimes not be particularly worldly, and they can certainly be very concerned with the sight of money at the end of the tunnel. And I think that explains why, for example, Jesus College in Cambridge, again, the alma mater of She Who Must Be Obeyed, why Jesus College in Cambridge has taken large sums of money from Tsinghua, from something connected with the State Council of China, from Huawei. I think it's just their natural feeling. If somebody comes along and says this is exciting research, it's their natural feeling to go along with it.
But they seem to have so much time to. The universities seem to have so much time and budget to criticise and chastise and self-flagellate themselves. Why are they not able to spot this creeping influence of the Chinese Communist Party into their own ranks?
Oh, I think that one answer is they don't particularly want to. It was quite interesting, actually, to look back at Jesus College, where the master of the college, faced with, I think, this investigation, and certainly faced with an investigation about a year ago, very quickly said, oh, well, no, there's nothing to see here. We do all our due diligence, and so on. The trouble is that due diligence very much turns into a box-ticking exercise. Unless you know that this person has something dodgy about them, you're likely to say, well, we'll go ahead with this research. Now, unfortunately, most academics don't like the idea of thinking seriously and saying, well, is this research going to help China do something we don't want it to do? There is a government scheme which I suspect is not operated seriously enough. I've forgotten, I think it's the ATAS, I've forgotten what it stands for, but it's basically a scheme whereby before a foreign student gets a visa to study at a British university in a scientific subject, they have to be vetted. Again, I've had a look at the form that you have to fill in to get ATAS approval, and I suspect that unless you've actually said, I think Xi Jinping is the best thing since sliced bread, and the more we can do for the Chinese army, the better, I suspect that a great many of them get through. Now,
why aren't we exporting Brits in the same way? Why aren't we doing Confucius institutes in return and sending our values over to Beijing? Maybe that would help.
Some universities do that. One trouble, of course, is that it's a rather one-sided operation, because if a person from a British university goes across to China, that is a country where you're very quickly aware, and I know I've been there about 9 or 10 times, that's a country where you very quickly know there is no generally free speech, and if you say something out of line, you're going to be in trouble. So you tend to be rather careful what you say. And of course, you can also be careful what you say when you get back, because quite a lot of academics want to be invited back to China. That won't happen to me because I've written far too much in The Spectator, being rather rude about the Chinese government.
But are we making this as simple as the fact that everyone's free speech has a price and China knows what it is?
I think that's right, yes. China is trying to gain influence throughout the world in a number of ways. It wants to gain influence over infrastructure throughout the world, and it wants to gain influence in universities throughout the world. Our universities are very prestigious, and it would love to have sort of backseat influence over quite a lot of them. And that's actually the other problem about large grants coming from Chinese institutes to British universities. There was a notorious event, again at Jesus College, Cambridge, when one academic there who was closely connected with the Chinese money did say a couple of years ago, can we please not have too much discussion of the policies of the Chinese government, because this would not be productive.
Well, that's the same across the world. You know, you look through show business, sport, anywhere. There's absolutely no criticism of the Chinese allowed whatsoever, and we are giving up our free speech at their whim.
But